Today we are going to review the book New Mathematics Today by Ncert Publishers and written by O.P. Malhotra, S.K. Gupta and Anubhuti Gangal. Now, this is a book mainly for ICSE syllabus class 7. However, the same book can be used for CBSE syllabus as well. That I will also discuss later on in the video. So now, let's open the book. So, this is the preface and the book, as they say, it follows strictly the new CISC syllabus, and these are some of the features. It's better to show it to you later on than to read it now. So we start with the syllabus. Now if you will notice closely, each year the syllabus sometimes somewhat changes. Now, this book, as I have also noticed, is quite comprehensive in the way that even if there is some change, you can still pursue even an older version of this book, because they have the authors have done a very good job in discussing the various aspects of mathematics for class 7 students. So let's now start with the syllabus, and you will see later on that these topics are covered very nicely in this book. So the theme 1 is number system, followed by ratio and proportion, then algebra. They have given some extra topics in algebra, then geometry, followed by mensuration and data handling. Okay, now this is the content, as you can see. So the content starts with integer, fraction, decimal, rational number. This is basically a prelude to class 8. This is covered more detailed. You will get to know more about this in later classes. Then exponents. This was already covered in class 6 as well. Then square root and cube root. This is introduced here in class 7. Followed by yet again little bit advanced introduction to sets that was introduced in class 6. Then ratio, proportion, unitary method, as well as problems on time and work. Then we have percentage and its applications, simple and compound interests, not compound but mainly simple interests. And then we have very unique problems on speed, distance and time, followed by algebra part, where we have covered the algebraic expressions, linear equation in one variable, and then linear inequalities. And then we have the model test paper 1, followed by the geometry section, where we have chapters like lines and angles, parallel lines, basic constructions. Nowadays in CBSE, this chapter is excluded. Then triangles, congruency of triangles, reflection and rotation, symmetry, representing 2D and 3D. And then we have mensuration, that is perimeter and area. This is quite exhaustively covered over here. Then we have statistics, frequency distribution and mean. So they have covered statistics in 2 chapters. Then we have chance and probability, not 2 but basically statistics in 3 chapters, average. And here they have got very interesting questions, some higher order questions as well, that you will find more common in higher classes. Then this is the extra part of algebra, special products, factorization, and then somewhat graphs and little bit more geometry, that means polygons, circles, and then followed by the last part of mensuration, volume and surface area of solids are covered. Now, before I move forward, let me talk about something related. Now, this is mainly an ICSE book, right? However, if you compare this with the latest rationalized book for CBSE, and just a second, here, this is the rationalized book. Now, here we have the various chapters. Now, these chapters, integer, fraction and decimal, you will see that you will find here much more content compared to the rationalized chapters. Not only that, if you compare the individual chapters of this NCERT book compared to this book that I will cover later on, you will find that the subject content is covered more exhaustively over here. So you can use this book both for ICSE as well as CBSE, and this is a very good book. The quality of questions and variety are much more than what you will find in the rationalized NCRT textbook. Okay, now let's move forward then. Okay, so the first chapter is integer. You see how they proceed the chapter. First we have introduction to integers. You see, little bit theory, then visual appeal, followed by small notes in color, which is quite good to read. Then another subtopic, opposite of an integer, ordering integers, and so on. So this is the first part of this integer chapter, and then we have got very nice decent examples. These notes are basically what students can refer to as important checkpoints. They should check these notes. And then we have the first exercise. The exercise is very nice. It has covered questions mainly of easy and moderate type. Harder questions or HOTS are covered later on. Now, this is the first part covered by the first exercise, exercise 1A. Then the second sub part of the chapter, which is regarding multiplication. So the first part was regarding addition and subtraction of integers, then multiplication of integers, then again question and answer, followed by the division of integers. Again, very short and crisp. Now, this is short and crisp mainly because the same chapter is covered much more detailed in class 6. Okay, and then finally we have a point wise chapter summary. In some books we have mind map type of stuff for revision, but here they have given point wise chapter summary. This is also very nice, very good. And then a mental math section that you have to do without using copy and all that. Just you have to do this by yourself. And then we have got an additional revision exercise. Okay, so this is all about the first chapter on integers. Then we have fraction and decimal. Here we have got a warm up. Why? Because the same chapter was covered in 2 chapters in class 6, and so they have first given a very brief overview on this fraction concept. Then various types of fractions, you see the bullets are given like this, then followed by very simple crisp examples, and again notes, important notes are on this side and text is on mainly on this side, and the color is very soothing, nice, पढ़ने में बहुत बढ़िया लग रहा है basically. And so the next part, multiplication of fractions, then reciprocal of fractions, complex fractions, and then word problems. So both simple problems followed by word problems. And then the first exercise, very nice comprehensive exercise, wide variety of questions. Then second part of this chapter, basically simplification of numerical expression. And you see very good decent questions, and they are given point wise. Note this part. While doing this problem, the explanation is given on this part of this expression. This is very important, and in fact students should also practice like this while writing in the copy, because this is a logical step of doing. How am I proceeding from this step to this step? What have I done? I must write it within curly brackets or so. This is how logical mathematics is done. Okay, next we have simplification problems, again decent questions, and then we have the decimal part. You see, decimal, very nice way of representation. You see, move the decimal point one place to the right, you see, after multiplication by 10. So they have given 2 things. First, this arrow, and then the explanation. This is a very good way of presenting a very good topic of decimal. I have seen lots of students struggling in this part. But you see, the way they are representing, the authors are very experienced in their field of work. Okay, now, again, this part over here, see, decimal multiplication. Here you have, see how it is shown, like the pencil. Two decimal places, then a 4 in the multiplier in first under the right hand digit, 5 of 7.85. You see, this is how it is showing, and then again more and more explanation. And so write a 0 before it to make the number of decimal places 5, like this. Why 5? Because here we have how many decimal places? 3 decimal places, 1 2 3. Here 2 decimal places, 1 2. So this is an explanation. In the while writing the answer, you don't have to write this part or this part, but this is right now for understanding the question. See how they have done? Very nice, very beautiful. Mathematics should be understood in this way. Very beautiful. I have seen the papers, the answers of toppers for higher classes, and sometimes I have seen that they also write in this way, because this is how students naturally think. This is a very logical subject. Okay, so if you think logically, and then there is no harm in writing the steps. आप अपने steps को जरूर लिखिए, ये आपके लिए भी बेहतर है. हो सकता है आपने कुछ सिली मिस्टेक किया है, पर जब आप रिवाइज करेंगे अपने आंसर को तो वो सिली मिस्टेक आपको दिखाई देगा और आप करेक्ट कर पाएंगे. ओके, सो देन वी हैव वर्ड प्रॉब्लम्स एंड फर्दर क्वेश्चंस. Then we have approximation of decimals chapter and so on. Then terminating, repeating decimals, right? Large variety of subtopics are covered. And then we have again, as I have shown you in the first chapter, chapter summary. Okay, point wise chapter summary using bold fonts and figures as well. See, such a comprehensive chapter summary. The same thing, the multiplication, division, all that thing is again covered over here. Then followed by revision exercise. You don't have to do revision exercise just after covering the chapter. You can do this later on to just check. Suppose you have covered the chapter and then after 7 days gap you want to check yourself whether how much you have actually remember at that time. Then you can start with just doing the revision exercise instead of again starting and doing some of the questions of this chapter. This is the basic idea behind the revision exercise. Okay, so this is the third chapter, rational number. Now you will find the same scenario in other chapters as well. This is a chapter on percentage. You will see very nice percentage change is over here. The formulas for profit and loss they have discussed. This is one of my favorite books for class 7. The class 6 book is also very nice. Okay, let me show you a chapter on geometry. Say lines and angles over here. You see what is point, what is line, what is plane, they have discussed. Then lots of figures, because geometry without figure is not correct. You see, very nice questions. See, very standard, nice questions. You will not feel cheated if you study from this book. The chapter summary has also figures for summarizing. Then again revision exercises. Okay. Then this chapter on symmetry and so on. The CBSE students will find this part somewhat extra compared to what the textbook is there. But come on, after your textbook, you need to get something more to refresh yourself. Representing 2D in 3D, this chapter, very good explanations. You see how they are drawing, how to make a drawing of triangular prism of length 4 cm with a triangular face as shown here. The various steps are written and then shown accordingly. Okay, so this is a chapter on statistics. Okay, Well, these are my personal notes. Sometimes I write them. You can also do the same in your book as well. Write the various important steps. So this is the step 1, step 2, alternative steps. Okay. Make this book your own by adding some of your own personal notes in it. This depends from student to student. Then we have the chapter on graphical representation of data. This is covered more in class 8. Very nice questions, you see. Variety of questions here students will find. Okay, now this is what I was telling you. This is an extra sort of advanced chapter. This is covered more details in class 8. But sometimes after covering your syllabus you get some extra time, then it is better to go through this. And most importantly, you don't need your tuitions teacher or your classroom teacher to explain these concepts to you. This book is perfectly okay for self study. You can study this by yourself. Then factorization of algebraic expressions. You see the various steps they have shown, and these are very important points, important for self study. I know a lot of very renowned publishers, they don't show these things. Now they have also showing these things in different colors as well, so that students attention get focused. You see, this is very important. This is how mathematics should be understood to students. Okay, then graphs chapter. While doing this chapter on graphs, it is better to buy a graph paper from stationery and do this problem on the graph paper itself. That will be more important way of understanding. Then we have the chapter on polygons and so on. So overall, I will say this is a very good book, absolutely important for any serious student. Now, before I finish this review, let me tell you that if you want to practice even more questions after this book, then there is this very nice but somewhat less known book. This is the NCRT book, Exemplar Problems on Mathematics for Class 7. Now, ICSE students will be wondering, why shall I study this from this book? But well, you will see, though ICSE might have some extra chapters compared to this, but whatever chapters there are, the quality of questions is absolutely good. Let me show it to you how this book is written. Say for example, consider again the integer chapter, which we have covered quite details. Now here the first, they give you some basic notes, point wise, very short notes, followed by solved examples. They are quite good quality solved examples. Then we have got exercises. Now the exercises, you will be wondering how many questions will be there. There are a variety of questions in these exercises. Okay, and sometimes you remember, while I was considering the integer chapter, there were various subsections. Now some of the questions, say for example these questions, they consider two or three subsections together. So you have to understand and remember the concepts of two or three subsections, then apply it together. Variety of questions. So overall, how many questions in this very first chapter? Still not it is completed. See, various types of questions. Now in a way of riddle types, questions are also there. Puzzle, riddle. So how many questions? Overall, the first chapter has more than 130 questions. So if you want to practice more questions after covering this book, then I will say this is a very good way to start. Now, of course, some students do prefer R.D. Sharma or R.S. Agarwal. I have no reservations, but this is a very nice book written by very experienced teachers and covers lots of problems starting from basic to higher order. Okay, so that completes my review of this very good book, one of my favorite books of mathematics for class 7.